Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in this episode of The Hypnotist, you're going to be listening to an emotional eating hypnosis session. And I was working with a client that had many years of using food as a coping strategy when they felt very overwhelmed with emotions like anger or anxiety or just a fear of missing out or being deprived of something. And what was clear in the session before the hypnosis started is that it wasn't a successful coping strategy. It didn't actually deal with why they felt angry. It was just a numbing strategy, a coping strategy to distract or hopefully change how they feel. But it wasn't even the best thing that would do that. And they had other things that they'd done which worked way better. So it was partly a coping strategy that kind of worked, but not really, but also an excuse that if they felt angry, it gave them permission to not abide by any rules and just feel like they could do whatever they want. And that creates a cycle. And that cycle is not pleasurable eating. It's the destructive self-sabotage kind of eating. And what you'll hear in this session is suggestions that link to the idea of pattern interrupts, that is doing something different to what you've normally done, and actually leaning into the emotion. One of the wonderful things about emotions is that they're all temporary. If you feel happy, you will feel happy for a while and then you won't. And if you feel sad, you'll feel sad for a while and then you won't. And it actually creates unconscious strategies to access consistent emotions all the time. Some people get themselves into states of frustration consistently. Other people will find always something to get angry about. And quite often that comes with a secondary gain that when they feel angry, it then gives them the ability to either feel a certain way or do certain things. And that might be to speak their mind. They can't do it normally, but they can if they're angry. So you get all of these kind of emotional payoffs, but it doesn't actually deal with the root cause as to why someone feels that emotion to begin with. And there's this interesting thing as well that there is a placebo effect taking place. Some people, if they feel overwhelming emotions, will drink or they'll smoke or they'll do something. And there's this feeling that doing that thing changes how they feel. But, you know, whether it's a drink or a drug or a food, it normally has a certain lag time before it hits the bloodstream anyway. And yet people change how they feel instantly. And therefore it can't be the thing itself. It's the fact that they're doing something. They feel in control by doing that thing, by having that drink. It's not the drink itself, it's the action that they're doing that changes how they feel. And therefore, there's lots of other actions that you could take that would change how you feel without any of the consequences of doing that thing. So this is really about emotional eating, but it applies to any other emotional coping strategy. And most people use drink, drugs, or food as emotional coping strategies, or avoidance. That's another one that gets used. This was created for an individual client, but if you can resonate or connect with some of these kind of emotional coping strategies and you feel like you want to break free of them, there will be a link in the show notes where you can schedule a free consultation call over Zoom and we'll have a chat and see if we can work together. For now, though, find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be disturbed. Relax and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in, imagine breathing in a wonderful feeling of pure, concentrated relaxation. And as you exhale, feel how good it would feel to be releasing any tension, any stress, any worries. Just allow them to feel like they're leaving your body in your outward breath. Breathing in that relaxation, and every outward breath takes you deeper and deeper relaxed. And what if the deeper you breathe, the more relaxed you become? And the more relaxed you become, the deeper you breathe. That's it. And I wonder if you can scan your body for any clues of tension. There will be clues. Tightness around the jaw, the neck or the shoulders. And just imagine that tension melting away. That every breath seems to melt away that tension. And you can feel that tension leaving your body in every outward breath. And as your body relaxes, your imagination awakens. And I wonder if your imagination can take you to a place in nature. Maybe a place that you've been to before. A place of mountain ranges and valleys. Or just appreciating the uniqueness of a single tree. I want you to get a sense that as you hold the image of a tree in your mind's eye, intuitively you know that that tree was not always there. And some trees are over 500 years old. But there's still a point where that tree was just a single seed, a possibility. And as you look at that tree, see the uniqueness of its shape. I want you to start thinking of your habits and behaviors as being like trees. Some of them have been there for years and years. But all of these habits and behaviors had a point where they were just a seed. And sometimes it's useful to ask yourself, where did this habit, this pattern, this thing that you do originate from? And you might be surprised. As quite often we stumble across these things that aren't perfect but just seem to work. Maybe there was a time in your childhood where you felt angry and you ate something and it made you feel better. And your brain thought, "Oh, this works." And each time you got angry and you ate something, you had more and more evidence that food changes how you feel, or just gives you permission to do things you wouldn't normally do. And over time, that tree got bigger and bigger, and the roots got deeper and deeper. But what if, all those years ago, when you got angry, what if you just took some time to tell someone how you felt? Or to write it down, to lean into that anger as a puzzle that needs to be solved. I have a feeling that that would have worked better. You would have understood where the anger came from and been in a position to do something about it. Because food doesn't really fix anger. It numbs it. It suppresses it. Food doesn't help with anxiety. It's just a distraction. What actually helps with anxiety is to treat it like a signpost to prepare or mitigate risk, or to call the bluff of the anxiety, to not believe that scary consequence is actually real. Some people think of fear like an acronym, FEAR, false evidence that appears real. And if you treat anxiety like false evidence, you can test it. Most of those worries that you had never actually turned into anything bad. But the anxiety made you feel like a thought was somehow real. But sometimes a thought is just a thought. I want you to imagine a row of dominoes, and imagine knocking the first domino over and seeing that chain reaction. And in many areas of your life, you've got these chain reactions, these rows of dominoes that when the first domino falls, it's a foregone conclusion that it will go to its inevitable end. Until you realize you have the power to remove 2 or 3 of the dominoes in that chain reaction so that the sequence can start and yet never finish. I want you to allow yourself to enter a dreamlike state. In your dreams, you've had experiences of floating, of flying. I want you to allow yourself to float over a valley in southern Italy. It's just your imagination. You can fly. Allow yourself to glide like an eagle. Allow yourself to float like a balloon. Allow yourself to go higher or lower, to see snow-capped mountains or rivers all the way down at the bottom of a valley. And you start thinking that all emotions, no matter how intense, are just passing clouds in the sky of your mind. They're temporary, changing and fading. And you don't need to eat the clouds to watch them drift away. Clouds can just be clouds, and emotions can just be emotions. And what if you're discovering that you can feel emotions without feeding them? Emotions don't need food. They need freedom, movement, expression. The moment you pause and breathe and just observe your feelings, you reclaim your power. And in that moment, food no longer has control over you. I want you to get an idea that you can now meet anger with movement. You can meet anxiety with rhythm, and any fear of missing out with a curiosity. As you start to make an evaluation that your choices are bigger and more powerful than your cravings or impulses. You couldn't hold on to a single craving or an impulse for more than 5 minutes. It will fade away. And what if every time you chose to write instead of eat, to walk instead of binge, or talk instead of numb? What if you're training your brain to respond with more choices rather than react? What if you've always had tools to handle emotions and you've just been using one of the worst tools in your toolkit? What if now it's time to use better, more useful tools? What if you've always had these tools but now you're just remembering how to use them? Because the hunger you feel when angry or anxious isn't for food, it's not for nutrition. What if it's for understanding? What if there's a hunger for release, a hunger for connection? And what if you're finding new, powerful ways to meet that true need? New boundaries, higher standards, more choices. I want you to get the idea that emotional eating is like trying to quench thirst by eating sand. It was never the right thing. And what if now you reach for water? And that water can be whatever you want it to be. Maybe that's movement, maybe music, maybe expression, truth or understanding, or something surprising. Whether it's now or in the future, sooner or later, you may discover that spontaneity and creativity are far more satisfying than the same old cycle of emotion and eating. I want you to think of a song that always puts you in a good mood. And what if the next time you felt an intense emotion, in advance you knew that you were going to play that song, do a silly dance with a big smile on your face. I don't think you could hold that intense, disempowering emotion for any more than a minute or two. When you're listening to that music, smiling in that way, moving your body in that way. And if that emotion lasted less than a minute or two, then you would know you found something better than food to change how you feel. And if it works once, it can work again. Every moment of awareness builds a new path. A path where your emotions are seen and heard and felt, but not numbed or fed with food. You've outgrown the habit of eating your feelings. Now it's time to express them, transforming them, dancing with them. And the more you feel your emotions, the less you fear them. And the less you fear them, the less you feed them. I want you to start thinking of emotions like anger, anxiety. It's like a toddler throwing a tantrum. The more you reward that tantrum, the more tantrums you'll get. And I wonder if all along you've been training your body to do exactly the thing that encourages more of what you don't want. More anger, more anxiety. Allow yourself to believe that you're planting new seeds that will create new habits. Wonderful habits that enrich your life. That you get to keep that joyful, pleasurable eating, but by reducing the emotional eating, you have a future of more confidence, improved health and vitality, a wonderful sense of feeling liberated. It's safe to feel, it's safe to express, it's safe to be uncomfortable. Because you are resilient, adaptable, and evolving. There's two good reasons to eat. To fuel your body and to really enjoy eating. But emotional eating was never enjoyable eating anyway. Just a distraction. A coping strategy. You get to keep all the pleasure from food. Because emotional eating was never truly pleasurable. If it was, it wouldn't lead to feelings of guilt, frustration, or shame afterwards. And contrast that when you think of a wonderful, enjoyable meal shared with friends or family. You enjoyed it in the moment and you felt good when you thought about it afterwards. That's the kind of eating to keep. Nutritional eating or real, pleasurable, enjoyable eating. Not the coping strategy eating, not the numbing, not the distractions. So any fear of missing out fades when you're fully present, when you realize it's all about choices. Because nothing is missing when you feel fully present, fully in control, and it's you that's making the choice. If you really want it, eat it. But if you don't really want it, then don't. You are in control. And from this point forward, food is just one option. But if you were to put food as something that helps with these emotions, I wonder if food would even be on the top 20 or 30 things on that list. That there would be so many other things that would just work better. You get to give new meanings, and you get to build new levels of friction and resistance. All that food that you used to emotionally eat, what if it was just difficult to find? That even if you felt that emotion, it wasn't available. What if that gives you a window to figure out something that works even better? And I want you to think about, in advance, that thing that you could do the next time you feel an overwhelming emotion. Decide in advance something that you could try that would be a better choice than food. That you're priming your unconscious to follow a different path, to tip a different domino over. And when you've thought about what that new alternative could be, let me know by nodding your head. There's so many options. Something that involves nature, movement, music, expression. Realize you've got so many choices and you can just think of one of them. That the very next time you feel overwhelmingly angry or anxious or stressed or worried, just allow your mind to think of a different thing to try. Consider you preparing for a contingency. You may have an umbrella, but it doesn't rain every day. You just have it there in case it rains. And consider these alternatives umbrellas. Things that if you feel the emotion, you get to use it then. And when something appealing comes to mind, just let me know by nodding your head. That's it. Allow yourself to consider so many different possibilities. And one possibility is just to sit with the emotion and set a timer to test how long that emotion even lasts for. Or maybe you set a timer and start writing or talking about how you're feeling and why you're feeling it. And don't be surprised if that emotion fades away in just a few minutes. No need to eat. No need to binge. Sit with the feeling. Lean into the feeling. And notice how quickly that emotion melts away. Do you imagine yourself still floating and flying over mountains and valleys? It's time to float back, all the way back to the here and the now. Feeling more empowered, feeling with more choices. So take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes, start to connect and calibrate into the here and the now. As I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you, you will awaken feeling resourceful, empowered, and excited to give new meanings and new choices to things that can change patterns that were planted many years ago. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.